Leadership, to me, is being willing to put yourself at risk, not just physically, which is so often the military train of thought, but leadership is being willing to be vulnerable and human and not be afraid of a mistake to learn from.
Leadership means to me, leadership is the ability to influence others to take actions they might not otherwise take, actions that very often are contrary to their own well-being and personal interests.
I think the best sign of a good leader is he is fearless. When I say fearless, I don't mean in the typical teenage sense of not chickening out, but to me fearless is being aware of oneself, his own ability to fail, and then rise above that fear and continue to lead. Because every one of us have certain areas that we feel we're not strongest in, and to prepare for that weakness and then to move ahead of it.
I think a good leader is someone who knows people and understands people, because leadership is all about people. It's not leading things, it's not leading processes, it's leading people. People are the entities that get things done, and without that, all the machines and everything else are worthless. So we need to lead people, and that's what that is all about.
I think the most difficult thing about being a leader today is being thick-skinned. Leadership really takes it on the chin. In politics, government, and especially in the military, you know, generals are always called the old man. There's a certain amount of tolerance that has to go with some of that, but having thick skin and not ever taking those things personally. And when it does become personal, you're in the wrong business.
I think one of the most difficult things about being a leader is the fact, again, that you are leading people. And people are beings of free will, and they naturally want to do what they want to do in their own self-interest. So you have to convince them that you care enough about them for them to sacrifice their free will and their well-being and surrender that to you to lead them in a direction. And that's not always easy, because first of all, you have to know that you're right, that you're going in the right direction. And second of all, you just have to be honest enough with people so that they know that you will not sacrifice them or their best interest for your own personal well-being.
Ronald Reagan was probably one of the greatest leaders in history. I liked him especially because he spoke of what he had values in, moral standards, ethics, character that was built into him. He had to overcome the image of being an actor. People didn't know whether he was putting on an act or being real. Time proved him to be as real can be. And he spoke from the heart of what he personally believed. His moral standards, his ethics, his character all shined through. And it was for his entire time of leadership. I loved him personally.
I think everybody's a leader, but looking back in history, the two people to me that come to mind, the people that I admire, are presidents, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. Men who had vision, courage, determination, and principle, and led our country in the right direction at a very dire time in our nation's history, once at its birth, and again when it was in peril of breaking up. But the problem is, I think many people have a very difficult time identifying with Lincoln and Washington, because they're such godlike figures in our history. And so I try to boil it down to people who perhaps are more day-to-day folks. And when I think of a modern-day history leader from history, I think of somebody on United Flight 93. When the terrorists took over that airplane and were flying it towards Washington, they probably knew that they were going to die and they were going to be sacrificed, but they decided not to go down easy. And so somebody on that plane rallied other passengers to try to overthrow the terrorists and prevent further tragedy from happening. And I think that just makes my point that everybody can be a leader, and it just takes somebody to step up and have the courage to do it.